India in the 1800s was a land of vibrant diversity. It was a mosaic of kingdoms and princely states. They were held together by intricate webs of trade and diplomacy. The Mughal Empire, once a symbol of power, was in decline. This power vacuum paved the way for the rise of new players on the Indian stage. Among them was a trading company from a small island thousands of miles away, the British East India Company. The East India Company, armed with a royal charter granting them a monopoly on trade with the East, had initially arrived on Indian shores seeking spices and textiles. But as the Mughal Empire crumbled, the company's ambitions grew. They saw an opportunity to expand their influence and control over the subcontinent's vast resources and markets. Through a combination of shrewd diplomacy, military might, and exploitation of local rivalries, the East India Company gradually consolidated its power. They established themselves as the dominant force in India. This marked the beginning of a new era in Indian history, the era of British colonialism. The British East India Company's rise to power was not a sudden takeover. It was a gradual process of expansion and consolidation that unfolded over decades. The company's early interactions with Indian rulers were primarily economic, focusing on securing favorable trade agreements. However, they soon realized that to protect their commercial interests, they needed political and military control. The company began by raising its own army, composed primarily of Indian sepoys led by British officers. This army, trained and equipped along European lines, proved to be a formidable force. They outmatched the armies of many Indian rulers. Using this military advantage, the company began to annex territories, either through direct conquest or by forcing Indian rulers into subsidiary alliances that made them subservient to the company. The Battle of Plassey in 1757, where the company's forces defeated the Nawab of Bengal, was a turning point. It marked the beginning of the company's ascendancy to political dominance in India. Over the next century, the company expanded its control over vast swathes of the subcontinent, from the Himalayas in the north to the southern tip of the peninsula. The year 1857 witnessed a watershed moment in the history of British rule in India, the Sepoy Mutiny. The uprising, which began as a mutiny of sepoys in the company's army, quickly spread throughout northern India, becoming a symbol of resistance against British rule. The immediate trigger for the mutiny was the introduction of new Enfield rifle cartridges that were rumored to be greased with animal fat, offensive to both Hindu and Muslim soldiers. But beneath this immediate grievance lay deeper resentment against the company's policies. The mutiny, though brutally suppressed by the British, had far-reaching consequences. It led to the dissolution of the East India Company in 1858. The British Crown took direct control of India, ushering in the era of the British Raj. The British Raj, which lasted until India's independence in 1947, left an indelible mark on the subcontinent. The British introduced significant changes in administration, law, education, and infrastructure. They laid the foundation for a modern administrative system and introduced English education. They also built railways, telegraph lines, and other infrastructure that connected different parts of India. However, British rule was also a period of economic exploitation and social upheaval. The British implemented policies that benefited their own industries at the expense of Indian artisans and farmers. They introduced a new land revenue system that led to the impoverishment of many peasants. The British also introduced social reforms such as the abolition of sati and the suppression of thuggee, but these were often seen as intrusions into Indian customs and traditions. The legacy of British rule remains a complex and contested issue in modern India. While some acknowledge the positive contributions of the British in terms of infrastructure and administration, others point to the lasting damage caused by economic exploitation and the suppression of Indian culture and identity.